In a city of minarets and monsoons, in the ancient heart of Lahore, a boy was born on October 5th, 1952, who would one day hold an entire nation's dreams in his hands. His name was Imran Ahmed Khan Niazi, born into an upper-middle-class Pashtun family of the Niazi tribe, raised by an engineer father and a homemaker mother, whose name would one day grace one of Pakistan's greatest hospitals. A boy who attended the prestigious Atchison College in Lahore, where Pakistan's elite sent their children. But it was never the classrooms that shaped young Imran. It was always the cricket pitch, always the crack of leather on willow, always the roar of a crowd that made his blood run faster than anything else in the world. And so at 16, he was already a force of nature, a fast bowler with fire in his eyes and hunger burning in his chest that no amount of wealth or privilege could ever extinguish. And he crossed oceans to study at Royal Grammar School in Worcester, England, and then earned his place at the legendary Keble College, Oxford, where he studied philosophy, politics, and economics, graduating in 1975. But even Oxford, with all its ancient libraries and dreaming spires, could not hold him, because the cricket ground was always calling him home. And in 1971, while still a teenager, he made his international debut for Pakistan against England. Not yet perfect, not yet the legend he would become, but carrying inside him something that no coach could ever teach and no opponent could ever take away: an absolutely unbreakable will to rise. Through the 1970s and into the burning heart of the 1980s, Imran Khan did not just improve as a cricketer, he transformed himself completely, like iron being forged in fire, from a raw, inconsistent talent into one of the most devastating all-rounders the sport of cricket had ever witnessed. His bowling a vicious force of nature that could crack a batsman's confidence before it ever cracked his stumps. His batting fearless and ferocious, like a man who genuinely had nothing to lose and everything to win. And by the mid-1980s, he was Pakistan's captain. And he did not simply lead his team, he breathed life into them. He secured Pakistan's first ever Test series victories in both England and India. He made the world of cricket sit up and take notice of a nation that had long been underestimated. And the awards came, and the recognition came, and the fame came crashing over him like waves. But Imran Khan wore it all lightly, because deep inside, he knew that his greatest moment had not yet arrived, that fate was saving something extraordinary for him, something that an entire nation would remember for generations long after he was gone. March 25th, 1992, Melbourne, Australia. Under the brilliant white floodlights of the Melbourne Cricket Ground, with the whole world watching, Pakistan stood in a Cricket World Cup final for the very first time in history, facing England, the original masters of the sport. And the odds were impossible, completely and utterly impossible, because Pakistan had nearly been knocked out in the group stage. They had stumbled and struggled and seemed destined to fall. And yet, Imran Khan gathered his young, frightened team before that final, and he looked them in the eyes, and he told them something that would echo through the history of Pakistani cricket forever. He told them to play like cornered tigers, because a cornered tiger does not surrender. A cornered tiger does not bow its head. A cornered tiger fights with every last breath in its body until there is nothing left to give. And that day, Pakistan played not for a trophy, but for survival, and for pride, and for the soul of a nation, with Imran himself walking out to bat with an injured shoulder that would have kept any ordinary man in a hospital bed, scoring 72 magnificent runs that became the foundation upon which Pakistan built their innings. And when the last English wicket fell and Pakistan had won by 22 runs, Imran Khan raised that golden World Cup trophy above his head. And across Pakistan, from Karachi to Peshawar, from Lahore to Quetta, people poured into the streets, weeping and laughing and embracing strangers, because this was their moment. This was Pakistan's moment, the one and only Cricket World Cup title their nation has ever won. And it was built on the shoulders of one extraordinary man who simply refused to accept that anything was impossible. He retired from cricket that same year, at the very summit of the sport, but the story was nowhere near finished, Because victory always has a shadow, and Imran Khan's shadow was a grief so deep and so personal that it would ultimately drive him to one of the greatest acts of humanitarian love that Pakistan had ever seen. Because in the years before that World Cup triumph, he had sat beside his mother, Shaukat Khanum, and watched her slowly lose her battle with cancer, watched her suffer in a country that had no dedicated cancer hospital, watched the poor around him die not just from the disease, but from the complete and devastating absence of any hope of treatment. And Imran Khan made a vow over his mother's grave that he would build Pakistan its first cancer hospital, and that it would treat the poor for absolutely free, because no mother should ever have to die without dignity, and no family should ever have to watch their loved ones suffer simply because they could not afford to pay. And so he went to work with the same ferocious energy he had brought to the cricket pitch, going house to house raising money, holding fundraising dinners in London and New York and Toronto, watching school children donate their pocket money, and overseas Pakistanis send their life savings, and cricket fans contribute whatever little they had. And in 1994, the Shaukat Khanum Memorial Cancer Hospital and Research Center opened its doors in Lahore. And today, it stands as one of the most advanced cancer hospitals in all of South Asia, treating over 75% of its patients completely free of charge, having saved tens of thousands of lives that would otherwise have been lost, built entirely on the love of a son for his mother and on the unshakable belief that the poor deserve the same quality of care as the rich. But even this was not enough for Imran Khan, because he had looked at Pakistan and seen a country drowning in corruption and inequality and injustice, a country where power was passed like an inheritance between the same feudal families and business dynasties, generation after generation, while ordinary Pakistanis suffered and struggled and dreamed of something better. And in 1996, he did something that shocked everyone who thought they knew him. He founded Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the movement for justice, walking away from the comfort and the glory of his sporting legend to enter the brutal and unforgiving arena of Pakistani politics. And the early years were absolutely brutal, devastating, humiliating in ways that would have broken any ordinary man. Because in 1997, his newly formed party won less than 1% of the national vote and not a single seat in parliament. And people laughed at him openly. Critics wrote him off completely. Political analysts said this cricketer had no idea what he was doing and should go back to the commentary box where he belonged. But Imran Khan had spent his entire life being told that something was impossible and had spent his entire life proving those people wrong. And so he kept going, kept building, kept speaking to anyone who would listen, kept rallying the youth of Pakistan who had never voted and never believed that their vote could change anything, traveling across the country from one corner to another, telling ordinary Pakistanis that justice was not just a dream, that a new Pakistan was not just a slogan, that real change was possible if they were willing to fight for it together. Through the long, difficult years of the 2000s and into the 2010s, the movement grew slowly, and then suddenly, and then overwhelmingly. And in October 2011, Imran Khan held a rally at Minare, Pakistan in Lahore that changed Pakistani politics forever. An estimated 200,000 people flooding into that historic ground to hear him speak. Young faces and old faces, and faces from every province and every background, united by a single hunger for something better. And from that moment forward, there was no stopping what had been set in motion, because an idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any government or any establishment or any amount of opposition. And on August 18, 2018, after 22 years of fighting and struggling and refusing to give up, Imran Khan was sworn in as the 19th Prime Minister of Pakistan. And he wept that day, and his supporters wept, and people who had waited their whole lives for a leader who had truly earned his position, rather than inherited it, wept because something had finally shifted in Pakistan. Something had finally changed. A man had risen to the highest office in the land through nothing but his own unbreakable determination and the faith of millions of ordinary people who believed in him.
His government faced enormous challenges: economic crises inherited from previous administrations, a global pandemic that no government on earth was fully prepared for, political opposition that never rested, And in April 2022, Imran Khan became the first prime minister in Pakistan's history to be removed through a vote of no confidence. But even then, he did not surrender. Even then, he did not bow his head and accept defeat quietly. Instead, he launched the largest political movement Pakistan had ever seen, taking to the streets, holding rallies that drew millions, speaking truth to power with a fearlessness that his opponents simply could not silence. And on November 3rd, 2022, gunmen opened fire on Imran Khan during a political march and shot him in the leg. And the whole world held its breath, waiting to see if this would finally be the moment that broke him. And the very next day, barely recovered from his wound, he stood before his supporters and spoke again. Because a man who has faced the impossible his entire life does not crumble before a bullet. And they arrested him, and they convicted him, and they sentenced him, and they handed him 186 legal cases across Pakistan. And they put him behind bars, believing that imprisonment would finally silence what they could not defeat at the ballot box. But every time they came for him, more Pakistanis woke up. Every time they tried to erase him, his name grew larger in the hearts of the people. Because you can imprison a man, but you can't imprison an idea. You can silence a voice, but you can't silence the millions of people who carry that voice inside them.
This is the story of Imran Khan, a boy from Lahore who became the greatest all-rounder Pakistan ever produced, a son who turned the grief of losing his mother into a hospital that has saved tens of thousands of lives, a citizen who spent 22 years in political wilderness fighting for justice and never once stopped believing, a leader who survived assassination and imprisonment and 200 court cases and still remains the most powerful and beloved political figure in his nation. A human being who proves beyond any doubt that one person armed with fire and faith and an absolute refusal to quit can change the destiny of an entire nation. From a cricket pitch to the Prime Minister's office, from a mother's grave to a life-saving hospital, from a prison cell to the hearts of 150 million people. Imran Khan, the Lion of Pakistan, a story that is still, even now, being written.